All right, today in this evolution, we're going to talk about the phantom pumper doing a phantom reverse. And in this situation, we are taking the phantom pumper to a desired location where we want to deploy the phantom pumper and whatever lines that we're going to attach to the phantom pumper itself. Okay. Also talk about a portable manifold. However you want to call this phantom pumper, we're going to show you one way of deploying it in a certain situation. Maybe you're fighting defensively and you need that as your water supply, and then you're going to go offensive after the fact. So the different equipment that we're going to use includes the minimum required equipment as talked about in the hose-lay manual, which is your irons, a trash hook, and a tick. We don't have a tick with us today, but we'll get the trash hook, we'll get the irons, okay? And then any additional equipment. For us today, while we do this, we'll talk about taking the phantom pumper with the 5-inch, we'll talk about the apartment load, and we'll talk about a smooth bore 2.5, at least 150 feet of 2.5 for one line. Of course, there's going to be situations where we pull both sections of 2.5, where we pull both sections of the apartment load. There's always going to be something else that you might need dependent on the situation. But for today, that's what we're going to use. Irons, trash hook. We don't have the tick. We're going to have the apartment load. We're going to have 150 feet of 2.5 with a smooth bore nozzle. We understand that normally the smooth bore nozzle is on the right side if you're facing the rear of the hose bed, but for today we've placed it on the left just for demonstration purposes. So to start us off, Firefighter 1, this is a 2-firefighter operation to make it smooth and make this happen in less than 3 minutes. But Firefighter 1 is at least going to grab us the 5-inch and the phantom pumper, and they're going to advance to the desired location of deployment of the phantom pumper itself. The firefighter monitor is demonstrating taking it out. The reason why we take the 5-inch and the phantom pumper to our desired location is that you don't want to take the phantom pumper to your desired location and then realize after sending the engine that you have to go further with the 5-inch. So you want to bring enough 5-inch to make sure that you're going to make it to the phantom pumper in the first place. Okay, then firefighter 2 at the same time, we'll be pulling the apartment load. We'll be pulling the 2.5, the irons, and the trash hook. We just want to unload all the tools that we're using. Because this is a reverse situation, the most important thing will be how fast can we send the engine to go get a water supply. So what we're doing is just unloading our tool cache, and that includes the 2.5, that includes the apartment load, and then getting to sending the engine as fast as possible. So once we've pulled our 2.5 out of the bed, according to the way we've loaded it, the first coupling that will drop will give us 150 feet on the ground. This gives us our 150 feet right here, minimum working line for the CCFD. We'll make sure that we put our coupling back in the hose bed. We don't want this dragging on the ground after we send the engine. Okay, we've got our trash hook, we have our irons, we have our apartment load, should we need those. Okay, and you can see firefighter Molitor has put himself in position to have the coupling in front of his knee, just like when we're doing a normal reverse situation. We're going to stand with the coupling in front of our knee. If it catches for whatever reason on the hose bed, on the baffles, it's not going to hurt our firefighter. He's going to make sure he's within sight and hopefully sound of the engineer and say, go, 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 send the engineer to the water supply.
Go, go, go!
Okay, our next steps. We're going to be hooking up our stores coupling to the phantom pumper. We're going to flake out our 2.5 and attach it to the phantom pumper. By this time, with our phantom pumper hooked up, we can let our engineer know that we are ready for water on the phantom pumper itself. We can man the phantom pumper, but there's a lot of safety concerns with having any sort of water hammered to our phantom pumper. So we want to be cautious of how we are manning this once we get water. We're going to make sure that we have 5 to 10 feet beforehand straight line into the phantom pumper before we charge the line. Firefighter Molitor's flaking out our 2.5. One thing that I want to mention after I lay this out, like I said before, normally we have the smoothbore nozzle on the right side if we're looking at the rear of the engine. The only reason we put the smoothbore on the left side today is because we're only pulling one line. I wanted to mention over here on this smoothbore, the nice thing defensively about having smoothbore as an option is that once we're flowing water on this smoothbore in a defensive operation, we have the option to shut down our bail, to remove the tip of the smoothbore, and then to use this as a valve for our apartment load. Now we can attach our Y to the end of this smoothbore nozzle, and we can charge our apartment load if needed. If we need a transition from defensive to offensive, now we have an option without shutting down the water at the phantom pumper. That's the difference that we have here. So as Firefighter Molitor brings it up, let's say that we already have water to this 2.5, already called for water to the phantom pumper, and then we called for water to the smoothbore, and we were using it. We shut down, and you can leave the Y on there. Depending on which kind of nozzle you have, some of these nozzles, they go reduced down to 1.75 inches. In this case, with the 1.25 inch tip, it has a 2.5. So now with the Y attached, you don't need to remove those because we'll just use those in a moment. Okay. But now with the Y attached, we have the option of using the apartment load. And if you had another line, another 2.5, you can use another section of the apartment load. It's all about front loading the work, making sure you drop off all the potential tools that you'll need in this evolution from the beginning before you send the engine. We understand that if you sent the engine to a water supply, you may have more engines coming later. You can always pull the tools off of that engine as well. Everything is situation dependent. This is, again, just one method of doing it. As we've done a lot of reps, choosing to take the 5-inch with you is a safe practice so you don't end up having to drag the 5-inch or pull the phantom pumper back to where you dragged the 5-inch in the first place. Always be thinking ahead as to where you're going to deploy everything. And then as you flake out your 2.5, you're going to have to make a decision. Do you want a Keenan loop? Do you want a mobile line that you can take around the corner of a structure for exposures or whatever you need? Everything will be situation dependent. And this is just one example, one tactic.